Hi, I'm Jennifer Riccinelli, Editorial Director with Tile, and today I am speaking with Gunnar Pennington of Jack Laurie Group. Hi, Gunnar.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Sure, thanks for coming to talk to me. Why don't we start a little bit telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got into floor contracting?
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, my name's Gunnar Pennington. I work for the Jack Laurie Group here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Um, I guess I kind of got in the trade by default by kind of being born into it. My father has worked in the ceramic tile union here in Indianapolis and had for probably 10 to 15 years. And so by default, I was kind of tagging along on side jobs, learning little tricks of the trade here and there. But as I got older, it came to the point where I could start coming to work with him. As I came a little bit older, we were homeschooled, so through summers, we were able to start coming onto some smaller projects with Dad, learning the trade, and I just kind of fell in love with it, honestly. I know a lot of kids that are kind of forced to work in a particular trade that their father has kind of been in. It can kind of go two ways. They can keep on the family tradition, or they can kind of grow to hate it. And though I had times in my adolescent years where I was like, man, this is tough, I really grew to love and appreciate the craft and the trade. And it's now that I've worked through high school and into getting married and now having children, I've also learned that it can be a great way of providing for your family and is a real honest living.
Wow, that's great. It sounds like you had a great role model growing up to really teach you the right way and, instill, and you had all the chance and opportunities to learn if this is something really for you, because you're right. I also am on the stone side of things, and you hear that with fabrication businesses too, where
Mhm, mhm.
the next generation doesn't really want anything to do with it.
Yes, yeah, you're right. And for me growing up, not only the trade of that my dad particularly worked in, but he also instilled in us a great appreciation for hard work. And a lot of people don't see it that way, but I also feel just working hard and working with your hands or whatever you do, doing everything that you can to the best of your ability is rewarding, and you can really grow to appreciate that.
Absolutely, I have to agree with you. So you started out with your father. So
Yeah.
how did you transition into getting into a bigger group like Jack Laurie?
Yeah. So, like I said, is when I was young, it was just side jobs here and there. My dad started here at Jack Laurie Group. His main goal for the company, they wanted him to build a ceramic tile division, preferably an hourly W-2 force. And like I said, once he felt like he could, we could, under the mask of a hard hat and some safety glasses, start coming onto the job site with him, we started to do so. And so it was from, my high school years working summers on to we graduated a year early. And I have a twin brother that works here as
Okay.
well. So we graduated early and we started full time. And I got paired with some really good journeymen that were really interested in instilling the craft in me, teaching me more of the tricks of the trade. Really, they saw the potential, that wanted to see me move up in the company, and that was detrimental for me, is feeling like a company and a group of guys were investing in me. So I began to learn the trade, and after a few years, they said, "Okay, we want you to start running some smaller jobs." And keep in mind, at this point in time, I'm barely 19 years old, no facial
That's
hair,
great.
still can't grow any today. And here I am starting to run some work because I've been doing it for, about 5, 6
Great.
years here and there. And it was some tough times, a lot of phone calls. Hey, what do I do here? I want to make sure this is right. And then also, kind of getting this look from superintendents and
Uh,
other employees are like, I don't know, you barely got any fuzz on your chin there.
They're
But
like,
yeah, it was kind of, I call it is like my boot camp experience. And though those times can be rough and hard, it was a lot of learning and developing and life applicable life lessons for me. And So it just kind of grew and grew. And then before you knew it, I was really taking on bigger projects as I got older. And then they instilled a general foreman position where it's, hey, we want you to oversee 2 to 3 projects and 2 or 3 groups of guys. And so I moved into that direction. And that was probably my favorite role because I was still out in the field on my hands and knees installing, but I also got to interact with crews and different jobs and figuring out how to be profitable and time management. And then as of probably the last year, they asked if I would come in to be a ceramic only superintendent for Jack Laurie Indianapolis. And we'd had superintendents that had managed carpet, vinyl, occasionally some ceramic. But they said, we want you to come in and your focal point, you eat, breathe, and sleep ceramic tile from a superintendent position. And that's what I'm currently doing. And it's awesome. I like it.
That's great. So why don't you give us a little detail about your day-to-day, what it is, as a ceramic tile superintendent?
Yeah. So here in Jack Laurie, Indy, where we've got about 17, I think we're up to 17 ceramic only guys in the commercial division. And my day consists of pretty much removing barriers that prevents us from hitting production goals, quality goals, attending progress meetings, making sure that we're hitting durations per our customer satisfaction, making sure that we're doing what they, that they're happy. And it's also, it's a lot of growing and developing. So training my guys, we've got quite a few younger guys that have come in down to just a first year apprentice. And then we've got guys that have been in the trade for, my goodness, longer than I've been alive, probably 35 years.
Awesome.
So it's a lot of developing, coaching, also just trying to be a help, a lot of launching jobs, going over prints, that's probably a good example of my day to day.
Sounds
A lot
like
of
enough
running.
to keep you busy.
Yeah, it is for sure.
With the pandemic, the last few years, we hear issues, problems of labor shortage, supply chain issues, all different types of challenges. Have you run into anything like that or anything that's really been hindering?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing that we're experiencing is it's even more than labor shortages. I feel like the labor shortages have been probably a 3 to 4 year long deal. But more than anything is our supply chains, getting what we need from our vendors is it's been tough, and even you go to our suppliers and then they'll go further even to the manufacturers. The manufacturers are behind and it's a trail for sure. And I know it's a lot of it was hit hard with the pandemic. There were supply chains that shut down for a couple weeks, and even though a couple of weeks doesn't seem like a big or long amount, but in the big picture, now we're really experiencing some of the effects of what the pandemic did during that time.
Yeah. Do you feel things are starting to improve a little, or do you think it's still going to be a little while before you're really back on track?
We'll kind of, it seems like it goes through ebbs and flows. Like we'll have a week where it's like, man, everything worked out. We got it when we need it. And then the next week, we're supposed to have this material and it's 3 weeks out. So
Right.
it's kind of go back and forth. I do feel though, as a whole, everyone knows what made this happen, why we're experiencing these durations and times getting material. But I always feel like everyone's doing everything they can. I don't feel like everyone's using that as an excuse. I feel like everyone is really like, hey, this is truly legitimately what's going on. We're doing everything possible to get it to you.
Right.
And that's been really nice to experience that.
That's good to hear. And, now that I'm getting out a little, being at trade shows and different industry events, it seems to be a common, thread among all contractors and people in the field. So it's good to hear everyone's trying to work together and do the best they can. That's all you can
Right.
do.
Yes, ma'am.
So in addition to pandemic challenges, what are some common issues you deal with day to day, like as a flooring contractor, commercial flooring contractor, would you say?
Yeah, oh, that's kind of opening up a big can of worms. I mean, it can be as general as weather related to not having material to dealing with a superintendent that just seems to hard to make happy,
Right.
So something my father's told me in a management way of looking at things, you got to wear a lot of different hats, and dealing with a lot of different people, even that work for you, customers, superintendents, everyone kind of has their own particular language of speaking. And sometimes you've got to get on their level and talk to them in a way that makes sense to them, communicate with them. Some like homeowner, it's if I could compare it, it's like working residential to working a hard big commercial project. You're not going to come in and just go to town, go crazy, and slap up tile, and it's a little bit more messy.
Right.
Radios blaring. A homeowner, you're going to come in, you're going to cover the floors, you're going to sweep up, you're going to be very respectful. I always think you should be respectful, but I think you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
So knowing who you're talking to, knowing how to communicate effectively to people. So that's one thing. And then it's as general, like I said, is, we're trying to unload a truck into a building, and the parking lot is solid mud and ice, and we can't get up to the door. And, so it can be
Yeah.
pretty general, but that's the gist of
You
it.
have to be quick on your feet, I guess, and deal as
Yes.
things
Yeah.
are thrown at you. So
We
with
call ourselves the firemen. You're putting
Yeah.
out the fires. Yeah.
That makes sense. Every job is different. And with that said, do you have any job in particular that stands out to you as a memorable experience, or was your favorite for some reason to work on?
Yeah. So probably the most memorable for me and the crew that was there even today still talk about it probably being their favorite job. I was, I think, 21 or 22 years old. At that current time, it was the largest project I'd ran as a foreman out in the field with a crew of guys. And it was the IPL building down on the Circle, Monument Circle, downtown Indianapolis. So kind of high profile. It's busy traffic. You're in the heart of a big city. There's always some good. I mean, it's something cool about that, I guess you could say. Windows everywhere, so you'd be on the top floor looking down at the Circle, and it was a hard bid job, and it was a tough job for me because I was young. It was a big project. We had a lot to do. Short durations. I had a younger crew with me as my younger brother. I had a younger guy that was my brother's friend. So not a lot of seasoned guys, but we knew what we were doing, but we kind of felt like we had the odds stacked against us. But that job was just fun. I mean, we could walk out the building, walk to any restaurant right down there on the Circle of downtown Indy, and it was just great. And then there's probably one more. They had asked me to go up. There's a job up in Ohio. That was some just really, really nice, expensive marble from Italy. And it seems like in our trade anymore, commercially, there's not a lot of customers on a commercial level that want to pay for that type of quality and that type of product. So it was super cool to go up there. It was right outside all the executives' office. They call it the Friendship Hall, and it was white and black marble. It was on a 45, tight joints, the stuff that you dream about as a tile installer that maybe you only see in a high-end home.
Right.
But we got to go and be a part of that for about 3 to 4 weeks, and it just came out beautifully. The customer was super happy. And it was overall a really good experience.
That's great. It sounds like you've had some good experiences. And I guess, being on the commercial side where you do these more high profile projects like the one in downtown Indianapolis, you get to look at, if when you're in town, you see it and that's
Yeah.
your work.
Yes, that's exactly right. Exactly right.
That's great. So, you told your experience and you had your dad to look up to, but then you also paid your dues and, you were young and learning from anyone. What would you tell or what do you tell your young, starters? Any advice you give them as they're getting into this field?
Yeah, so I think we're in a unique time in what the younger generation's expectations are for work, career, a way of providing. And, I want to be, I want to be sensitive to that. And I never want to tell anyone, don't chase your dreams. But the truth of the matter is that in my experience, what I've learned and hearing from others, you are going to have to work to live. As hard as that is for some people to grasp, it is the reality to it. So I think for me, if the advice I would give everyone is totally your perspective. I heard someone say perspective is a fine art. We should always be refining that, and we should be utilizing that. So it's how you look at things. And a lot of people, I saw a lot of younger guys I would see come in to construction in general would look at construction more or less as a job, not a career. And I tell them, this is one, be proud of what you do. There is, to me, and this is me, and probably a lot of people agree, but there is so much pride at the end of the day. Say you're in a custom shower and you do the shower, and after 2 or 3 days, you look back, you see your work. There's so much pride in that. So one, being proud of what you do, realizing that construction as a whole, and in particular the tile industry, because that's what I'm in, is a career. And then, be willing to work, put in the hard work. And that statement resonates so true with me, is hard work pays off. If you work hard, if you do what your employer's asking of you to, if you exceed expectations, if you make your boss's life easier, you'll have a job for life, but I think the biggest thing is your perspective.
Right. So true. So that makes perfect sense. And what you're doing is like a work of art, and like you said, you
Yes.
take pride in it, and it's something that'll always be there, and it's things people are using. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
So you have anything else you'd like to share, either about being a tile contractor or about yourself, Jack Laurie?
I've been at Jack Laurie since I was out of high school. It's been the only job of employment I've ever had. I've never even worked, the little summer jobs at a grocery store. I never did this. So as far as comparing, I don't have a ton to compare to, but I can tell you there are quite a few guys that work here that say, hey, there's something about this company. They treat their people well. So I'm super happy to be where I'm at here at Jack Laurie. And then last and foremost, I give all my credit and all glory to God for everything he's done and provided in my life.
Great. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. I loved hearing your story, and I'm happy to share it with all our readers and viewers.
Well, awesome. I really appreciate you having me.